this video, we will learn some of the most common seams to just get started sewing something. So I thought that if I just teach you these 3 most common types of seams, you would be pretty much ready to go to pretty much sew almost anything. Even if you don't have a serger, these seams will basically give you a finished look. Hello my magical beings, and welcome to another episode here on my Karmaticadesigns YouTube channel, where we learn all about fashion and sustainability. If this is your first time, I welcome you dearly. My name is Karina, and I really hope that you like today's video, because today we are actually going to get started making our very first seams. Well, not my very first seams, because I've been doing this for a while, but maybe they are your very first seams, and I am here to teach you all about them. To recap a little bit of what we did in the last video, episode 7, we basically learned how to use the sewing machine. We sort of got a little bit more familiar with the functions, with the speed. I even had a sewing practice PDF that it was available for you guys to print out. So if this is your very first time trying a sewing machine, I strongly encourage you to go back to episode 7 on my channel, and you will find this one for free for you to download and try out. So also, if you're a very beginner, I also encourage you to check out episode 3, where I teach basically how to thread a sewing machine. So yeah, watch episode 3 and episode 7. Before we jump into it, go ahead and like this video, smash that subscribe button, let me know all your thoughts and questions. I'm here to connect with you. So without further ado, let's just dive right in. Alright guys, so here we are sitting at the machine one more time. So to get started with this lesson, I just want to go over the materials required. You're only going to need your pins, your scissors, or big scissors if you prefer, or a rotary cutter if you have one, along with a healing mat, because you are going to need these 3x6 little pieces of cotton muslin that I just cut out. Basically, we're going to use these to make our seams. We're learning 3 of the most common types of seams. These are pretty easy, and if you were to like sew along the line, then you have this raw edge and it's going to start fraying. But the nice thing about learning these seams is that you don't necessarily need a serger to get rid of them. You could simply do it all with your machine. Alright, so go ahead, take some time. I have already my pieces of muslin pre-cut. You're going to need 6 of these little pieces. Okay, and when you are all done, then meet me back here. Once you have your 3x6 pieces of muslin cut out, what you want to do is align those raw edges together, and you want to put them together like this to make a seam. Okay, next up, because we're just starting, we're going to pin it. We can put, in this particular seam, we can put about 3 pins. Okay, once you have that, it's ready to go under the machine. A quick note, I have always used about a 1/2 inch of seam allowance. I'm just gonna go ahead and sew over the pins because that's what I usually do, and I have never had any problems. I have also seen some people actually use clips instead of pins. I mean, there's just more than one way of doing things in this sewing world. So let's get started sewing. Alright, so for the sake of this video, I am going to keep my stitch number at 3 and my needle position at a 0-1 with the brother machine, only because the 1 keeps it centered, as we spoke about in the last video. The next thing is adjusting the speed. I'm gonna keep it at the fastest, but you want to do whatever feels most comfortable to you. Alright, so the very first seam we're going to learn is a plain seam. Okay, so again, you want to align the edge of your fabric with the 5/8 line. Alright guys, and so we are going to get started with making our plain seam. Alright, so the very first thing that you want to do is you want to give it a first few slow maybe 3-4 stitches. And then using this button right here, you want to back stitch. Okay, so just press it and release. Okay, this is called back stitch, and it will prevent the seam from opening. All right, so once you've done that, just keep on going, and remember to keep the edge of the fabric aligned with the 5/8 line. I've never had any problems sewing over the pins, so just keep on doing that. If you feel more comfortable or if you're nervous about something breaking, you can remove the pins. Alright, and back stitch there one more time. Lift the needle, lift the presser foot, bring it out, and cut. Alright, and there you have it. You have a plain seam. If you like, at this point you can trim the loose threads so that you can get a clean professional finish. The next thing would be to open up the seam. You could press it open. You want to open the seam where you just sewed on and press right in there. On the inside, to avoid the raw edges, you could give it a zigzag stitch along the line right here, along the raw edge, or you could, if you have a serger, you could serge this side or this side, or you could even keep it closed and just serge along the raw edge, and there you would have it. Alright guys, so for the next seam, we will be doing a French seam. We're going to run a straight stitch. You want to do about 1/4 of an inch. You want to put your fabric aligned, raw edges aligned as such. Okay, for this one, I'm not having any pins on it, only because it's a smaller seam allowance, which is 1/4. Don't forget, 1/4 of an inch. So we want to start with that. So put your fabric under the presser foot, put the presser foot down, needle down, so about 3 stitches, and then back stitch. As you can see, I'm only feeding in the fabric. I'm not moving it or shifting it, just that. Lift your needle and press your foot and pull that out, and there we have it. Next thing is going to be cut out your threads. Alright, the next thing is going to be, you know, once we have this little seam, it's about 1/4 of an inch. Well, technically we're supposed to press it here, so I'm gonna go ahead and press this really nicely, and I will be right back. To press it, remember we have our seam right there. All we want to do is push it to the side, smooth it out, and we just want to press that out, just that way. What's going to happen next is we're going to flip it over, and here you have your seam. Okay, you want to really make that a really nice crisp fold along the sewing line, so you can get a nice half like this. Okay, and you're just simply going to press that out, and there you have it, a nice crisp edge. Yay! Alright, back to the sewing machine. Alright, so the next thing we want to do is to bring our nice and pressed piece of muslin under the machine, and we have to be able to notice, I don't know if you can see it in the camera, but I see where that raw edge gets to. We want to sew a little bit over that. Okay, we're going to sew all the way along. We do not need to pin it, so just go ahead and try that. And there you have it. You know, right here we had a little happy accident. I don't know what happened, it just like bulged up. You can always rip this apart, which I will because I want to make it look nice. You don't need to watch me do that. I'll just take care of it myself, and I'll correct that. Alright, and so this is our French seam. Okay, we stitched down the line about 1/4 of an inch, then flipped over, and we pressed that out to make it nice and crisp, and then we just stitched down the line. And this is going to be the wrong side, but as you can see, there is no raw edge, which is pretty neat. Alright, and I pressed it down so it looks nice and clean and crisp. Alright guys, so moving on to our next and final seam, we're going to be making a flat filled seam, and this is pretty similar to the French seam, except that for this one we are actually going to sew at 5/8 of an inch, and we can actually pin for this one only because it's a larger seam. Alright, just like this. Alright, and so there it is. We have our machine nice and threaded. Once again, align it with the line right here. 5/8 is what we're going to be using at the very beginning. Okay, and you want to give it a few slow stitches and then back stitch, and then it's ready. Just get started. And there you go. Okay, just like a plain seam. The next thing is going to be, we're going to open it. We're going to go ahead and cut off half of one of the sides of the seam. Okay, and you want to use your scissors for this. Just slightly open it. You don't need to press it right now. But we are going to cut half of this. Once you cut it, okay, we are going to go over by the iron. Cut off your threads, remember? We're going to go over by the iron, and we're going to fold it in a specific way, and we're going to press it, and I will show you just how to do that. Here we have our edge that we just cut off, and here we have our long edge. Once you have this, we are going to fold the longer edge over right where the sewing line falls on. Okay, and so you're just going to fold it like this all the way along. You see, the muslin fabric is really easy to work with, which is why we want to use this to practice. Okay, so once you have it folded like this, you're going to fold it over like that. And there you have it. You're just going to iron that down and press it really well. The other side should be also nice and crisp. You can give it a quick iron on that side just to make it nice and flat. Remember, it's called flat felled. Okay, and the next thing will just be very simple. Follow me to the sewing machine. At this point, you want to hide in all the little frayed pieces. We don't have that many. We did a pretty good job at hiding them in the first place. So all we gotta do is edge stitch, and by edge stitch, I mean the name says it. We're going to stitch right by the edge, like that, right around there. And so you want to align it right where your needle is going to fall, which is right in that center. Trim off the unwanted threads, and there you go. It's all ready. Alright, and for our last seam, this is our flat filled seam. Basically, we did a straight stitch down about a ½ inch or 5/8 of an inch, and then we cut out half of one of the side of the seams, and we folded over as you saw, and we pressed it down, and then we just threw in a second stitch, and look how nice and flat this is looking. That's why it's called a flat felt, and it's one of the strongest seams. Also, along with the French seam, it's one of the strongest seams. If you notice, this is usually the stitch that your jeans will have, and you will find this type of stitch, the flat felt, in mostly like your denim. You know, this is a skirt I have, but yeah, this is a total flat felt seam, and it's pretty nice and strong. Right? Also, really, and I mean really, do not feel discouraged if your seams in the beginning look something like this. Hold on, let me see it. Look something like this. It's just really badly stitched. Actually, this was my very first flat filled sample that I did. It's terrible. Look at the back. It's just embarrassing, but you know, I mean, practice makes progress, and I'm pretty sure you can get it with extra practice. That should not be a reason to discourage you from continue learning sewing. I think you'll do just fine. And yeah, these were our 3 samples that we made on this class. I really hope you have enjoyed it, and let me know all your questions. Yeah, I'm ready to work with you and help you in any way possible that I can, even though we are virtual, while we are still sharing an interest and a passion from far away. So that's what I have for you today. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for your support, and I will see you next time.